What's up, guys? We have another game with the white pieces against Brazil's #1, rated 1759, strong player. We're just gonna have a casual bishop's opening game against an 1800 while pointing out drawbacks, threats. So he develops his bishop. We're going down the copycat variation if you've seen my other videos. If he copies me again, okay, he doesn't copy me, so never mind. He instead goes d5. What does this threaten? He blasts open the center. What's the drawback? His pawn is hanging, as far as I can tell. So I'm going to take it because it would seem very weird not to take it. Black goes c6. What does this threaten? My knight. What's the drawback? Takes away that square from his knight. So that's not good for him. And of course I'm just going to move my piece back to its original square. And now I'm just up a pawn. And black goes queen d4. Threatening checkmate in one and the bishop. So it looks like I'm forced to have an only move to defend queen e2, protecting the bishop and the square. So he brings the knight in. What does this threaten? Maybe bishop here, maybe knight here. But before any of that, I can attack his queen first with my knight, which means it has to discoordinate or uncoordinate with his bishop, so there's no more mate threat. Okay, so now a piece here doesn't have any effect or matter. So now I'm just up a pawn again, and he has no attack. Okay, so as long as you find queen e2, you're fine. Now it's our turn. We should just solidify. We're up a pawn. We could castle, or we could play d3. Which one do we want to do? I don't think it matters. I'm going to play d3 and just protect the center first and open up another piece. In case he goes here now, at least I could protect with a piece in the other line if you castle first, and for whatever reason he does this, you'll have to recapture the pawn. So he brings his bishop here. What does this threaten? It pins the knight, but it's not a threatening pin because it's defended by a pawn. The drawback, undefends this square, but that doesn't really matter. And okay, so we can bring out our bishop, we can castle, or we can play h3. I'm going to throw in h3. It's a free move because it hits the bishop, and I get the turn back once he moves his bishop. And if he takes the knight, I'll gladly make that trade and have the bishop pair. So he takes the knight, but it wasn't for a good reason. Just because I played h3, there was no reason to give up the bishop. He didn't gain anything out of it, and now I have the bishop pair. So that can't be, so I'm happy. My position's solid. I'm up a pawn with the bishop pair. His knight can't get to the squared wands to go here, which would have been ideal for him because he blocked his own development with the c pawn. Okay, so he develops it towards the center, but I mean, doesn't really have anywhere to go. It's just a developing move. Maybe he's going to castle long. I don't know. So what do I want to do? If I go for the bishop and he checks me and I go here and he goes back and I kick it, he could evacuate. So I can't force him to give me that bishop, where otherwise I might want it. So I'm going to gain a little bit of space, make a positional move. You could just castle. You definitely could just castle. But I'm going to go a4. And what this does is, because he played c6, eventually one of the plans for him is to play b5, hit my bishop, and then b4, hit my knight. But now he can't do that because my pawn covers that square. Also, if his knight had nowhere to go except for b6. Now if he goes to b6, we have ideas of kicking that knight, but right now it threatens the bishop. I don't see a reason to give him the bishop, So maybe we can retreat it to this square. Let me see. If I go here, quick blunder check, everything looks fine. And then we can play this next move maybe. He might play it himself. Maybe he should play it himself. But he doesn't. He goes here, which doesn't stop this idea because the rook supports it. And if I do go, it doesn't threaten anything because the knight's defended. It's just a pin. I can simply castle out of it. The drawback is he's moving the same piece twice and for no reason instead of castling. If I attack this knight, it really has to go back. And it seems like a free move, and it opens up this square for my pieces, my minor pieces. Okay, so he throws this in with a check. We have to take, of course. And then he goes back. Now he gave us both of his bishops for no reason, and this doubling of pawns supports our center. As well as removing the b pawn gives us mega threats. Like if he castled, we insta-win with bishop a3. So I love positions like this. So when lower rated players, you know, don't be afraid of the doubling of pawns, especially if it's not the side where you're castled. Especially if it's not the side where you're castled. I know I said it twice. I'm trying to stress it. Okay, so he moves back. We have a great position. I kind of want to go here anyway, even though he didn't castle. He has to kind of go something like here. Then maybe we can just try to attack him with pawns. Clearly our king's safe. He has no activity whatsoever. You could maybe throw this in, but that lets his knight back, so you ideally don't want that. We do want to continue developing with our bishop. We could go here, here, or here. I'm inclined to go this way. I do want to wait for him to castle, but that's a cheapo. I don't want to rely on cheapos, so I'm just going to make the most active move I see in the position. A good looking forcing move, right? This is good looking forcing. This one is good looking, but not forcing. So queen goes back. He's getting more and more passive. It's now hitting the pawn, so that's something to keep in mind. If he takes it, I mean, there's no reason to let him take it. If we go here, he could just kick us, though. Okay, new idea. We're gonna put it here, and then we're gonna launch this pawn up the board to open everything up. I think I'm just gonna sack this pawn, or can I just let me just castle first. I just want to get rid of all 4 of these pawns and just open it. Oh, actually, he castled the other way. Never mind. So he's not threatening anything. There's no particular drawback other than the b file is already open. Now he could take the a pawn because that would open it up for us. So we don't care if he takes it. So like well, one of the drawbacks of castling is this pawn hangs. I don't see a particular reason not to take it. It does allow his knight to go here, but then I have a check. Yeah, I always have this square intermezzo no matter what he does. So now I'm up 2 pawns. I don't need to attack his king. You know, philosophically, I'm up 2 pawns with a strong position, a bishop pair. I could trade down to a winning king and pawn endgame. So I'm just going to do that maybe. So he moves his queen. What does this threaten? I'm not sure what this does. But now that my rooks are connected, I'm going to go back here to where I was and threaten this again. Now if he goes here, it doesn't matter. He goes c5. This block, what does this threaten? Nothing. The drawback is it weakens his king, weakens the light squares, and it self-pins, so I'm not too sure that a self-pin is good. I'm going to get my last piece into the game because I'm running out of time, and I don't want to run out of time. So he goes h5, but there's no attack here. His thing's way too slow as far as I can tell. Drawback is there's still a bunch of holes in his position. I need to get my queen in the game. I need to make it useful. So I'm going to go here. What this does is it gets it in kind of one of the only ways. I guess you could go here. It also pins the knight. He moves his king, but this walks into a different type of pin. Okay. I wish I can get my queen in further. I guess I could actually. I could go here. If he trades, I'm up 2 pawns. If he doesn't trade, I might have too many threats. He doesn't trade. Okay, so now my queen can get in, I guess, this way. This is kind of where I wanted it, on this side of the board. It started here, so that's a pretty cool teleport. I guess I need to just bring my bishop back. I don't want him to trade pieces like that, though. I'd rather do something else, like avoid this knight trade. He pushes the pawn, but this opens up the diagonal, threatens nothing, hangs more pawns. I'm going to take more material. I don't think I'm hanging anything. Okay, so he trades queens. I now have triple isolated, which less than ideal, but now I can go here. Create a threat with my rook, and if he takes, I can at least fix my pawns. He doesn't even take. But the drawback of this move is it's extremely passive, and now I'm gonna bring in another piece. And oftentimes you'll hear me say in my videos, I wish my own pawn wasn't there. For example, this A pawn, my rook would be way stronger. So he takes the bishop because there's threats here. I could take, I want to undouble my pawns, create a connected pass pawn, and I'm still threatening the rook. Now he can move the rook, but I'll double maybe. He doesn't move the rook, he goes here. This doesn't threaten anything. I can end passant. I'm going to do that to open up. Like I mentioned, I said I wish it wasn't there. It's not there. I'm going to take his rook. I'm going to give him a check. I'm going to go back so I have as much mobility as I can. He's hitting my bishop, so I retreat to a defended square. I'm trying to go fast because of time. He doesn't have anything substantial. I can go F3. I want to get my rook in the game. I also want to just create threats, so he has to respond. If his king moves over, my rook can get in this way. If his knight goes back, maybe I can get behind it. If he ignores me, I mean, I could just take this. This isn't a threat. There's no threats on his side of the board. So I'll just get behind my pawn, and now he doesn't even have this, and I'll just push. If he puts his rook here, might as well just centralize, right? The center. Okay. Whoa, that's a blunder. Okay, I need to get my king in. I butchered this a little, but it's fine because I'm up so many pawns. I'm going to run out of time, so I just need to get my king centralized, like here. And then easy win. I don't need to panic, which I almost started doing. I don't need to blunder into a fork. His knight has no more jumps. Okay, let's bring our king in. Let's bring our king in. If he moves his rook, I'm going to push the pawn. I'm going to push the pawn. He can't stop it now. He's all in on this, which is not a thing because it's not a thing. He can take this, but he's still many moves from getting it out of the way and promoting, and I get a queen next move. So he needed the rook back here to blockade. He can't go on journeys like this because he doesn't have the firepower. He has this check, but it didn't even matter because I have a queen. Okay, there has to be checkmate. I'm not even calculating, but this and this has to be checkmate. What's the fastest one? I don't know. Don't ask me. I want to keep it boxed in, so I'm just going to sack the rook. There's a check. And now, with no knight, I don't have to worry about his shenanigans. I guess we'll go here. You can do this any way you like. I guess you don't you can't really bring the king in because you can't let him queen, so you either have to take his pawn or take his rook or something, or just checkmate him. I'm gonna use the queen and bishop to try to box him in. I don't really need the king. He only has 2 legal moves, both of which run into checks. I guess anything he does is just an eventual mate, one way or another. As we casually take out Brazilian's number 1. He left the game. Brazil's number 1 loser. Ha. Way to represent your country. You now been kicked out. You're no longer an honorary Brazilian. Claim victory right now. Boom. That's right. Warn him. Leaving games without resigning will result in a temporary ban. Okay, so that was pretty interesting. I just want to see. Yeah, I don't know how on earth you can play d5 on move 3 here as black as an 1800. It obviously just hangs the pawn. It makes no sense. It's clearly bad. But whatever. What is this tactic? Bishop takes, queen d4, and take the bishop. Oh, it's the Scotch Gambit in reverse. Lol. That's why they prefer knight e3. That's funny. Still bad, but kind of cute. So he goes here now. Queen e2. He has to drop back. I hit the queen. He drops back. So all this makes sense. Okay, so all of this makes sense. Oh wow, they like a4 the best. Yeah, it seemed reasonable. Okay. They love all my stuff so far. And I mentioned g4 and kicking the knight, which is an idea because this pawn's hanging. What did I do? Oh yeah. There's this move. But then I realized after he goes queen g7, I move it anyway. You could push it. That was an option, true. If you didn't want to move the bishop, but I didn't want to push it yet. I wanted to keep it where it was. That's funny. Okay, so here it's plus 2.5, still absolutely crushing, of course. I just castle, and now he hangs another pawn. Fine. Now I go back, correct decision. He blocks. I bring a rook over. He goes here. I bring my queen in. Correct decision. We're +4 in this position. So hopefully you can, even if it doesn't look like anything to you, hopefully you're starting to understand like why a position like this might be +4. Like this is what white has going on. And what does black have going on though? Right? It's terrible. And he's down 2 pawns. And he's got giant holes. So okay. I found a good move. He doesn't take, oh duh, this pawn's hanging. The whole time I was trying to figure out, I was trying to get a rook here and somehow make it work with this knight here. That's where my mind was behind the scenes, but I couldn't do it. Okay, so there was that pawn. I just moved my queen here. We're still +4. He hangs another pawn for no reason. Oh yeah, I could have taken... I'm blind. I didn't even see that. Okay, but either way, it doesn't really matter. You're up everything. Okay. Yeah, so still nothing egregious. Not that I want to do something terribly wrong. But those are the biggest areas for improvement. Yeah, I ended up bringing my rook back because of the king. I'm still +5, anything's winning, but... Yeah, he has to stay here and blockade the pawn, but now he leaves it and immediately jumps to +10. Oh, +300, did I say? Oh wow. It went from plus 356 to mate in 19. Mate in 18, it found something faster. Yeah, and the game's over. Okay, almost another really, really accurate game. Nice. It doesn't tell you like chess.com though, does it? I guess you could plug it in, but that's a lot of effort. Alright, so good game. Taught this guy a lesson. Brazil's #1 chess beginner. Submit your rapid games in my Discord so I can review them for you. Good luck. Goodbye.